I know you see the phenomenal work that's going on here. The focus is STEAM, which is very encompassing, but of course, it doesn't even show all the work that's happening at TC. You know that in the fields of education, health, and psychology, TC is preeminent, always has been, continues to be. We're always inventing new fields. Just started a spirituality and psychology program, the first of its kind, a learning analytics program, the first of its kind, a diabetes education program, the first of its kind. So many new fields all the time. And so much of that is made possible by our campaign, Where the Future Comes First. We are making great progress thanks to many of you. And you know that student scholarships and fellowships are first priority, our preeminent goal, because you can see what happens. Our students go out and make such a difference in the world, so of course we must support them. So we've started more than 128 new named scholarships, and I'm so pleased that after February event where I got to welcome back to New York my TC mentor, Donna Shalala, we are establishing a new scholarship in her name, and that'll be listed for those who want to give to that as well. So please continue to support the campaign, and thank you for all your efforts. Let me address for a moment the honorees today. So how wonderful, congratulations. What you've accomplished. I mean, it's amazing if you look at the span from the advanced learning sciences to moving more policy agendas, more meaningful policy agendas forward, entrepreneur and social activist, first woman minister of education, advocate for vulnerable young children and at-risk adolescents, breaker of boundaries. I mean, I listed each person, but you could almost exchange those titles because all of you are all that. And it's just such a stellar group. You embody the best of TC, and you make us all very proud. I said last night at the reception that this is the first year I have at least met, and some of you I really know well, but now I know, having met all of you before today is such a statement, I think, because here are our most distinguished alums going out there and doing such important things in the world, but they are engaged with TC. So I think it's so great that we can keep our groundbreakers still so close to Teachers College, and it has been a pleasure getting to know you, and congratulations. And I'm going to turn the program back to Jeff to begin the official honors. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, President Furman. Oops, sorry, gotta find the right page. In your program, you will see the names of the presenters joining me in recognizing our distinguished alumni today. These members of TC's faculty and alumni community will read from the citations that are being presented to each honoree. And now I'd like to welcome Thomas James, the Provost of Teachers College, to the stage.
Thank you very much. Randy Bennett, your work as a world-renowned expert on the computerizing of assessments has been cited thousands and thousands of times in the research literature. Yet that distinction doesn't begin to reflect the scope of your influence. During nearly 4 decades at the Educational Testing Service, currently as holder of the Norman O. Frederiksen Chair in Assessment Innovation, your watchwords have been diagnosis rather than measurement, and better rather than more. You have worked tirelessly to harness the potential of digital technology. You have successfully applied new advances in learning and cognitive science to testing. All the while, you have kept our eyes focused on the ultimate prize of better teaching and learning. You directed the technology-based assessment project, providing key data to help the National Assessment of Educational Progress move to a technology-based platform. Your work revealed important differences in outcomes when students undergo assessments online, suggesting new possibilities for more accurately gauging complex problem-solving skills. Your critical inquiry into assessment as a theory of action prompted ETS to adopt that concept for all of its programs. And this led to a clear instruction to everyone managing testing programs to create ways not only to avoid unintended negative consequences, but to realize positive impact through the assessment process in support of teaching and learning. You have directed research undergirding the ETS initiative, known as cognitively based assessment of, for, and as learning. The goal of this project is to help educators use test results to plan and adjust instruction and to assign work that students will find genuinely meaningful. In professional roles such as Vice President of the International Association of Educational Assessment and a member of the Technical Advisory Committee for the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium, you have had a major beneficial influence on education policy. Dr. Randy Bennett, for creating assessments that reveal potential rather than simply quantifying proficiency, for pushing the boundaries of what tests can fairly and meaningfully measure, and for ensuring that technology works in service of learning, not the other way around. We proudly present you with the Teachers College Distinguished Alumni Award.
Thanks very much, President Furman, Provost James, members of the nominating committee, and members of the TC community. I'm very honored and indeed very humbled to receive this award. It was just about 40 years ago that I came to TC looking for something meaningful to do with my life. In the Child Study Center at Thorndike Hall, I found it. From my advisors, Margaret Jo Shepard, who I'm pleased to have here with me today, and the late Jeanette Fleischner, I learned how assessment could be used to better understand what kids know and can do, and through that, help them learn more effectively. From Professors Shepard, Fleischner, and many of their colleagues, I also learned to question the quality of assessments, how they were used, and how education policy might unintentionally promote inappropriate and sometimes very destructive uses. Finally, I learned from my TC professors to seek out and respect evidence, letting it take my thinking wherever the weight of that evidence did, even if that direction proved very different from my own preferences and preconceptions. A lesson that sadly seems to have been lost on at least some of those who make policy today. I left TC 2 years later to complete my dissertation at Educational Testing Service, where I've been ever since as a member of the Research and Development Division. The lessons I learned at TC, how assessment could be used to help teachers and students, questioning how effectively it achieved that goal, and letting the evidence provide the answer became the guiding themes for my career. This award belongs to many people, without whose influence and support it wouldn't have been possible. Joe Shepard and Jean Fleischner were everything that graduate advisors should be: mentors, models, and ultimately friends. The late Professors Francis Connor and Samuel Ball connected me with ETS, which gave me a career in which it's a rare day that I don't learn something new, exciting, and useful. I'm especially grateful to Professor Ruth Gottesman, my longtime colleague, for supporting my award nomination. And finally, behind every achievement, there's usually a family that provides love and support, but that also sacrifices. My wonderful family was no different. So thank you, Emily, Katie, and Mary Lou for that. Don't forget Maria.
Please welcome Katie Embry, Vice Provost, and Professor Sharon Lynn Kagan, the Virginia and Leonard Marks Professor of Early Childhood and Family Policy.
Ready? MaryEllen McGuire. Some people use issues as a means to a political career, but you have used the political system to tirelessly advocate for policies that improve education for all students. True, you took a brief detour. After serving as a committee aide in the Connecticut General Assembly, you spent 4 years learning the realities of the 5th and 6th grade classroom before earning your doctorate in educational policy here at Teachers College. Then it was back to working with the likes of Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and Christopher Dodd, then senator from your home state of Connecticut. In advising these leaders, you evaluated post-9/11 educational initiatives in Afghanistan, planned White House conferences on philanthropy and teenagers, and drafted legislation related to higher education access. In 2009, you joined the Obama White House, serving on the White House Domestic Policy Council as President Obama's senior advisor for education. In that role, you played key roles in securing passage of the Student Aid and Fiscal Responsibility Act, a $40 billion investment in Pell Grants, additional funding for community colleges, and more than $60 billion in taxpayer savings. Most recently, you created and launched the Post-Secondary National Policy Institute, which has quickly become the nation's leading source of professional development for policy makers working on higher education issues. You and your team are already having a major impact on helping stakeholders develop sustainable, long-term policies that will improve higher education well into the future. Dr. MaryEllen McGuire, since leaving Teachers College just 14 years ago, you have made an indelible mark as a dedicated advocate on behalf of students of all ages for your momentous achievements thus far and the significant contributions you are sure to make to the American education in the coming decades. We are pleased to present you with the Teachers College Distinguished Alumni Award.
Thank you, Kate. I wonder if this is what it feels like to win an Oscar. For me, it does. So I am joined here today not just by friends, but by family. By my amazing husband, Bediako, my always cheerleader sister, Michelle, and 3 amazing women that I like to consider my children's New York aunties, Connie, Nicole, and Katie, who are alums of this esteemed institution, but are also my life coaches, my mentors, my role models, and my good friends. So it's amazing to be here with you today. I'm also joined today in spirit by my parents who couldn't travel, by my toddlers, Imani and Liam, who are home, and by my eldest son, Connor George, who passed away 5 years ago. But beyond these ties, I stand before you today surrounded by my extended family, my Teachers College family, every single one of you. While at Teachers College, I had the privilege to learn from the greats, and one of those greats was the late Tom Sobel. He believed in me. He encouraged me at the ripe old age of 29, I was 29, to pursue my dream to become a White House intern, when frankly not many other people did. People thought I was too old, it was an undergrad program, shouldn't be interning, I should be working. He encouraged me to do so because he saw what I saw. He saw an opportunity to show people who I was, an opportunity, he would always say, of showing people who I was going to be someday. It didn't matter that I was the oldest intern in the cohort. It didn't matter that I was copying and running errands, because at the end of the day, I could see a path, and that path led me here today. Engage, prepare, shape, improve, and educate. That's what Teachers College does best, and that's what Teachers College did for me. Dr. Sobel, Robert Crane, Connie Bond, Robbie McClintock, Art Levine, Peter Cookson. This is Teachers College. Teachers College believed in me, and even after I left, Susan Furman and Lynn Kagan, they believed in me, and their beliefs propelled me along a path that has brought me here today. I currently run a nonprofit in Washington, D.C., whose goal is to increase federal policymakers' knowledge and capacity to devise workable, sustainable solutions for higher education. We believe with all our heart that by providing policymakers, mostly congressional staff, with a knowledge base for thoughtful decision-making, we can help drive better post-secondary outcomes. Now, I know thoughtful decision-making might not come into mind when you think about Washington, D.C., but I absolutely promise you that there are people from both sides of the aisle in Washington, D.C., who, like every single one of you here today, are absolutely passionate about improving the lives of students and their families, and to ensure that all Americans, regardless of your race, your ethnicity, your gender, your income level, or your first-generation status, that you have access to high-quality, affordable post-secondary solutions. But the reality is, at the end of the day, these policymakers, they need all of you. They can't do it alone. They need Teachers College. They need you to provide them with data, to conduct and convey research, and they need all of you to prepare the next generation of federal policymakers, whether they're 29 like I was, or 39 or 49. So thank you, Teachers College. I am incredibly honored by the award I've been presented today. Thank you for educating and inspiring me, and thank you for facilitating both my professional and my personal dreams. You have my word that I'll continue to educate and that I will continue to dream. Thank you.
Please welcome Karen Block, Associate Professor of Psychology and Education.
Dr. Lida Orzeck, you are living proof that there is more than one fulfilling career path open to someone with a Ph.D. in social psychology, and more than one way to work toward bettering the world. Your success in co-founding the Hanky Panky line of women's lingerie is the stuff of business legend. This is particularly true because you envisioned a different career. After leaving TC in 1972, you conducted studies of the interview process of the New York City Police Department Sex Crimes Unit and Emergency Medical Services response at the city's Health and Hospitals Corporation. But this was a time when women were flexing their newfound muscle in business and commerce. In 1977, when your friend Gail Epstein gifted you with a handmade set of undergarments fashioned from lace handkerchiefs, a dynasty was born. What you lacked in knowledge of sales, you more than made up for with your savvy about people and psychology. Soon, you convinced buyers in New York's biggest department stores to stock your signature product, a one-size-fits-all piece known simply as the 4811. That rare combination of glamour, elegance, and comfort has since become the favorite of women the world over. In recently hailing your success, Forbes declared that Hanky Panky now sells an average of 1 panty per second. Yet, just as impressive, you have also made your goal to run a really healthy, well-regarded, and ethical company. You have set the standard for nearly 40 years for ethical business practices that promote local sourcing, sustainability, and recyclable packaging. You and Gail Epstein have channeled a sizable percentage of your earnings into supporting nearly 60 nonprofits, including the International Organization for Women in Development and the Southern Poverty Law Center. You also serve on the boards of both of those organizations. Dr. Lida Orzeck, for your intrepid trailblazing as both a woman in business and an international role model for ethical practice and charitable giving, and for paying it forward by investing in TC students in social and organizational psychology programs, we are most proud to present you with the Teachers College Distinguished Alumni Award.
That really was me. Thank you very much, Karen. I am in astonishingly impressive company this year as a distinguished alumna. Thanks so much for this honor. And I'm especially pleased that this year TC is emphasizing their support for the arts as part of a total educational package. You just can't overemphasize how important that is for the betterment of our society. In my few minutes at the podium, I want to recognize someone who is a national treasure who Teachers College is so fortunate to have captured. He has been at TC for over 50 years. He is Dr. Morton Deutsch. I had the extreme good fortune of studying for my doctorate with him, one of the field's most distinguished and decorated social psychologists. He's the founder of the International Center for Cooperation and Conflict Resolution here at TC, and he's still active there at age 96. I'm so proud to be forever associated with the hugely important and relevant areas of inquiry that Mort pioneered and devoted his career to, real-world issues surrounding peace, psychology, and social justice. I was initially drawn to the social psych department at TC because of my personal concerns in these areas, but it's impossible to calculate how simply being in that department's social and intellectual environment has influenced my own trajectory in this world, albeit outside of academia. 5 years after receiving my doctorate, my career took a serendipitous turn when I received a birthday gift of underwear from a close friend of mine. That's when Hanky Panky was born. I will always be grateful to Mort for not discouraging my abrupt and risky departure from the field. As open-minded and non-judgmental as he was and is, it certainly couldn't have hurt that his own wife, Lydia, worked for Christian Dior as a lingerie designer. How random is that? I didn't stay in academia long enough to make much of an impact, so I can only assume that I am here today because of the fine reputation of Hanky Panky, the company I built with my business partner, Gail Epstein. The chief benefit that derives from having a thriving company is in the ways it allows us to give back and make positive contributions to society. I'm very grateful for the recognition I'm receiving today from my peers. Thank you so much.
Please welcome to the stage Lee Kneffelkamp, Professor Emerita.
We color coordinated, did you notice? There's more than one way to hanky panky. My dear colleague, Dr. Nancy K. Schlossberg. In the 1930s, Walter P. Pitkin popularized the notion that life begins at 40. It was a catchy phrase, but Nancy has shown definitively that a life of productivity and fulfillment can begin at any age. Nancy, your own professional life, or rather your first one, began in 1961 when you earned a doctorate in counseling from Teachers College. After teaching at several institutions, you became the first female executive at the American Council of Education, establishing the Office of Women in Higher Education in 1973. You spent the next quarter century at the University of Maryland as a beloved and highly respected professor of counselor education and counseling psychology. And in that role, you were not only innovative in the curriculum and powerful as a mentor for students and introducing many of us to the whole issue of adult learning and adult development, but you were an amazing champion for justice in terms of equal pay for equal work on the part of the women faculty. As a junior faculty during that time, I can personally attest, I was extremely grateful. Amazingly, though, Nancy, you were only getting warmed up. In the 2 decades since your own so-called retirement, you have redefined our approach to that all-important and often overwhelming life transition, establishing yourself as America's retirement guru. That work builds on your famed transition theory and model, which established a systematic framework for understanding the life changes of adults. Through your consulting firm, Transition Works, through your television experiences and public speaking engagements, and through your best-selling books such as Revitalizing Retirement, Reshaping Your Identity, Relationships, and Purpose, you have moved the national conversation about retirement beyond mere financial and medical planning. Thanks to you, the focus now is on understanding our psychological portfolios and rethinking our relationships, our goals, and our sense of purpose. As a result, we are learning to embrace, rather than to fear, the road ahead. Of course, one need look no further than Nancy Schlossberg for inspiration. Your daughter has joked that, quote, "the only thing retired about you is your paycheck." Your undiminished energy and productivity are eloquent testimony to life's riches beyond the pursuit of material wealth. Dr. Nancy Schlossberg, for your scholarship and dedication, for your tireless work in helping people confidently and successfully navigate the most challenging passages of life, and for demonstrating every day that life cannot begin only at 40, but at 60, at 80, and beyond. We are so proud to present you with the Teachers College Distinguished Alumni Award.
Oh, really? You make me sound better than I am, but I'll accept it. I can't tell you how meaningful that is. Lee and I worked together for many years, so she knows the truth, but she didn't tell it today. I want to share a story with you that shows how my intellectual awakening began at Teachers College. First of all, I came here to take one course, and guess who I met? Esther Lloyd Jones. And if you don't know who she was, look her up. She was bigger than life. She was fantastic. And she became an inspiration and a mentor. The combination of Esther Lloyd Jones, Al Thompson, Donald Super, Gordon Clough, Jean Jourdain, and many others really began my intellectual awakening. But let me tell you the story. I was fortunate to be hired by Esther as her administrative assistant in the first National Educational Defense Act Institute. And the logical thing was to do my dissertation as an evaluation of the Institute. Now, because I had, through studies at Teachers College, discovered the work of sociologist Merton and started to learn about adult socialization, I used that as the framework for my study. I was very proud. Well, I handed in my dissertation, the orals were set, and I got a call from Esther canceling the orals. Well, that's a shocker. And I met with Esther, and she explained that the writing really wasn't good enough. I had a friend, Esther Westervelt, who was in the department, and Esther Westervelt said, "I can't make chicken soup, but my husband and I will come and move in with you for a week, and we will teach you how to write." And they did. And we cut and we pasted, and I realized that logic had a lot to do with writing. And so I finished rewriting it, handed it in to Esther, met with her, got her approval, and she had a few comments, last-minute comments. I took it on a bus to meet some friends for dinner to celebrate. And when I got to dinner, I realized I had left the dissertation on the bus. Well, I thought I'm going to kill myself, but I thought I'll wait till tomorrow. I called the bus company, and they said they could not look into it till the morning. Things wouldn't have been handed in. Well, I collected money from those at dinner, and I got in a taxi, and I stopped at every stop where the bus might have been. And I had remembered that the bus driver was whistling, "A Rose Must Remain." So as the door to each bus opened, I said, "Were you whistling 'A Rose Must Remain'?" And finally somebody said yes. I rushed back, and there was my dissertation. So what did I learn from that? I learned I should have been an FBI agent and not a counseling psychologist. But I also learned that Esther taught me how to write. She set standards for me. She gave me support. She gave me challenge. And she introduced me to the world of the mind and the intellect. Without that challenge, I would have never been able to write the books that I have written. I am forever grateful to all of you and to the people with whom I worked at Teachers College, to the high standards that exist, and to the support that you have given us, and especially today, to honor me with these very wonderful people. I appreciate this very much. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Stephen Silverman, Professor and Chair of the Department of Behavioral Sciences.
Dr. Yupha Udomsakdi, in your rise from girlhood in a rural village to leadership in Thai government, education, health, and commerce, you have blazed a trail for women everywhere and created better lives for millions of people in Thailand and around the world. Leaving the village life was the first step in your journey, though you would subsequently draw on your knowledge of it to forge successful solutions in the real world. With the outbreak of World War II, you dutifully suspended your studies after being told there was no need for a woman to become a doctor. But when you learned a new nursing program in Bangkok, you packed your bags and took the first step to make your dreams come true. Then it was on to New York, where you studied nursing and midwifery, and then earned a master's degree at Teachers College in physical education. In 1960, you created Thailand's first bachelor's program in health education, premised on a problem-solving process in which health workers help people in villages help themselves. The program's graduates later integrated health education into school curricula across the country. You also established MaryEllen University's Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanity and helped create Thailand's first Institute of Population. You won global recognition for these efforts, becoming a health consultant to UNICEF. You also won an election to Parliament, where during 4 terms you led reorganization of Thailand's education system. Ultimately, you became the nation's first female minister of education. After retiring from government, you were elected vice chairman of the Constitutional Drafting Assembly, which created the most democratic constitution in Thailand's history. During the past 20 years, you have taken on a new role as a successful business leader. Yet to the Thai people, you remain the beloved Dr. Yupha, running a foundation that funds educational projects in villages where children dream of living lives of accomplishment like your own. Dr. Yupha Udomsakdi, for personally demonstrating the possibilities for advancement and accomplishment that education creates, for using your own education and experience to help your nation and the world, and above all, for empowering people to help themselves, we are proud to present you with the Teachers College Distinguished Alumni Award.
Please patient with my English. President Susan Furman of Teachers College, President Jeffrey Batman of Alumni Association, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for giving me this distinguished Alumni Award. I was a student here 56 years ago. It's quite a long time. From having educated here, I learned a lot, not just education, but also the social aspect of the USA, especially democracy. You would be surprised if I tell you that after working as an educator in a Thai medical university for many years, I changed my path and was elected as a member of the parliament, the lower house, for 4 terms. And I became a minister of education, and being the first woman from the lower house to become the minister in a democratic government of Thailand. I am proud that I was able to promote a lot of changes in Thailand, including women and child development plans and health education programs that became integrated into the national policy. I remember the time when I was here almost 6 decades ago, when I was fortunate to meet Mrs. Bolton. She's a congresswoman who was one of my supporters of education at Teachers College. I am also grateful to all the teachers and mentors of Teachers College. Yeah. Time goes by so fast. Today I am revisiting Teachers College with my 3 daughters and 5 grandchildren from Thailand. Three of them are currently studying at Columbia University. I am very proud that I was educated at Teachers College and that I have contributed significantly to the education system in Thailand
at the time when women are not equally recognized as men in Thailand. Thank you again for your kind support. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Aaron Pallas, Arthur I. Gates Professor of Sociology and Education, who will introduce our Early Career Award. He will be joined by Professor Sharon Lynn Kagan, the Virginia and Leonard Marks Professor of Early Childhood and Family Policy.
David Johns. No one who knows you was surprised in 2012 when President Obama named you the first executive director of the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for African Americans. You've been praised by your TC mentors for your dual orientation to scholarship and activism. You said simply, "I've been preparing for this job my entire life." And so you have. As a teenager, you braved a 2-hour daily commute to an unfamiliar neighborhood to receive a quality education. At Columbia University, you triple majored with honors in English, creative writing, and African American studies. And the prepared text here says, and while earning an MA in sociology and education here at Teachers College, you found time to teach kindergarten and third grade students in local schools. But I can hear David behind me saying, "Excuse me, I was a teacher. I found time to earn the degree." You also immersed yourself in studies of policy and its impact on educational equity. And since arriving in the nation's capital, your own impact has been profound. Serving first as a Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Fellow with Congressman Charles Rangel, and then as Senior Education Policy Advisor to the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, you took on issues ranging from early childhood education to historically Black colleges and universities. In your White House role, your hallmark has been the creation of multi-agency partnerships to improve educational outcomes for African Americans of all ages. These efforts are improving access to meaningful learning opportunities, increasing recruitment of African American teachers and administrators, growing investment in quality early care and educational programs, and raising the number of African American students applying to and completing college. You also have committed to lifting up students' voices in public forums, allowing their experiences to be heard by policymakers and practitioners. And if you weren't on stage, you'd be live tweeting this event, using the social media platform and the hashtag #TeachTheBabies to advance the agenda. David, one can only guess at the amazing things you will accomplish in the future. But in 10 short years since leaving TC, you've emerged as a national leader with the skill and determination to help close America's achievement and opportunity gap, and in President Obama's words, restore the country to its role as the global leader in education. For your passionate dedication to these goals, and for the hope and inspiration you've provided to all who work towards social justice, we proudly present you with the Teachers College Early Career Award.
I taught kindergarten and third grade on 110th and Broadway and told my kindergartners that real men cry, real men wear pink, and real men also teach. And so if I don't get through this without crying a little bit more, know that it's because I'm especially strong. I have joked with a couple of you, like MaryEllen, that I hope that this award is not like the curse that comes with the Best Oscar Actress First Award. In part because this is still so very surreal to be in this point in my life, to be appointed right now by President Barack Obama to lead an initiative that is unapologetically and intentionally focused on closing opportunity and achievement gaps for African American students specifically, but for all of our babies more generally. And it's surreal in part because if you had asked me 10 or 15 years ago if I would have been an educator, I would have laughed and said no without equivocation. But what I think about is the importance of being nurtured and supported by people who told me to do that which I love. While a student at Columbia University, while trying to make sense of how to take the theoretical learnings that we were taught and make them practical and real, whenever I got frustrated and I would call my mom and say, this doesn't make sense, I don't want to be here, I'd rather be somewhere else, she would say to me, I just want you to be happy. And that was a really vexing thing to say to somebody like me because I didn't know what the hell happy meant, right? I knew how to get good grades, I knew how to navigate systems, I knew how to show up and do the work required. But the happy thing was just something that I didn't spend a whole lot of time thinking about. And then I found myself in the middle of a morning circle with 22 kindergartners who helped me find my happy. And the idea of having a career is still something that doesn't really resonate with me because I simply get to show up and expend my time and energy trying to ensure that every child, I've never met one that asked to be here, but to ensure that every child has the ability to find happy as I have. It was at Teachers College in a course taught by Professor Aaron Pallas where I realized that my happy was going to take me to Washington, D.C. Because I got really frustrated sitting in spaces and in rooms where we would acknowledge our privilege but not think about what was required for us to take risks to improve the lives of other people. And so I took a pay cut from teaching. I had to explain to my family and friends that I was in fact not crazy and this was a thoughtful decision. Remember, this is pre-President Obama and him making this all cool. But I moved to Washington to try my hand at policymaking, to put into praxis the things that Aaron and Amy and Sherilyn Kagan teach. And my hope is that my ability to show up in these spaces, to do all that I can to highlight the importance of the need for us to teach the babies, is something that will change the lives of children who look like me and who come from communities like mine. And so I accept this award on behalf of all of the babies that we will continue to teach. I want to say thank you especially to this institution who produces individuals who do God's work. Freeman Hrabowski said that when I graduated from Teachers College in 2006. He spoke right after Dr. Ruth, and he said when he began, educators do God's work, and it is something that I know is not said often enough. And so I want to say thank you to TC and to all of the educators who do this work. I want to say thank you to the caring and concerned adults who stand in gaps and who facilitate brilliance. I would not be who I am today if I were not surrounded by people, including some of you who are in this room, who took the time to figure out who I am and to help ensure that I could find comfort in the spaces I move through. And I would be exceptionally remiss if I did not publicly say thank you to my village. And this part is going to be really hard because often I talk about my mom, but I don't get to say thank you to her in person, but both my mom and niece have joined me from California. And so I just want to say thank you to them. What they know is that right before I was appointed by President Barack Obama, Secretary Duncan said to me that I have the ability to ensure meaningful and lasting change, and that the charge was to be disruptive. And I sort of joked and said to him, I'm a black boy who's been living in America. My life is an exercise in being disruptive. And what I think about is that I spent a lot of time being alone, on buses, traveling an hour each way to a space that I was told would allow me to be able to stand in a room like this, being in AP classes as the only African-American student or the only African-American male policy advisor in the US Senate Help Committee. And the thing that has allowed me to not only move through those spaces, but to stand comfortably in who I am, knowing who I am and who's blessed me, is having people who support me no matter what I do. So I want to say thank you to the professors, Aaron and Amy and Sharon and President Furman, for all that you do for me and for this community. I want to say thank you to my guardian angels, Pam and Bobby, who have nurtured me so long, to my friends Kim and Melissa, and a special thank you to my mother, the fiercest education advocate that I've ever met, the woman who's taught me all that I know. And to each of you again, know that I accept this award on behalf of all of our babies and charge each of you with continuing to put them first. If you take a chance on them like people have taken a chance on me, we can finally solve most of these intractable problems and find other things to celebrate in spaces like this. But again, I'm incredibly humbled, and if you hear me say nothing else on behalf of all of our children in our communities, hear me when I say thank you, thank you, thank you.
See, you weren't the only one who forgot it. Let's have one more round of applause for all of our award recipients today. Thank you again for joining us for this very special occasion. We look forward to receiving your future nominations to help us in identifying the next group of alumni who will join the ranks of these distinguished alumni.